Hey guys, Waterfowler41 here, and today's quick video is on upgrading the interior lighting in my 2020 Ram Rebel to LED. So if you can see, I'm currently stuck with halogen lights. These come stock in the 2020 Rebels, and it's a little unfortunate because it's 2020 now. We should have LEDs in these trucks. Anyway, what do I have here? So I originally had some 194 Philips LED bulbs that were laying around from my last truck, and I thought, hey, why don't I throw these in the front, because these front bulbs up here, so those map lights up there, use 194, and then back here uses a 44 millimeter festoon. However, yesterday when I was messing around with this, I learned that you can't just grab any normal 194 LEDs. You need to make sure that these are CANBUS compliant. Basically, you have this air sensing system within your car, and using regular LEDs isn't going to send back the right resistance to the body control module, to the BCM, and it's going to basically show up as a default. And in my case, when I installed these that were not CANBUS compliant, the light wouldn't even turn on. So I got rid of those. But I did have a L44 LED festoon laying around that actually does work in the back. So we're going to go ahead and install this one. This is a Philips 12 volt, 6000 Kelvin, part number 19C19. So I'll leave a link to this down in the description below. So anyway, taking care of the 194s. So how did I address this issue? Well, I went over to Lasfit and I picked up some CANBUS compliant. These are from Lasfit. These are their 194 bulbs, and these will fit in the map lights on my 2020 Ram Rebel. So let's go ahead and show you how to remove the console to get to the front 194s. It's relatively simple. It just takes a little bit of elbow grease to get it out. Okay, so like I said, we're going to remove the center console, or at least this whole light module, this little light panel here. And the reason we're going to do that is because it's easier to get access to the light bulbs from behind the actual fixture instead of through the bottom by popping out the lenses. So in order to remove this, we're going to take out these two 8mm bolts. There's one there, and then we're going to press on those clips, which will drop the front portion of this light console. And then there's two metal clips in the back here, so one about here, one about here, that we're just basically going to pull straight down. These are a little tough to get out. It might be easier since this will be the second or third time I've removed this, but it's going to take a little bit of pressure. So once you pull it down here, don't just keep pulling everything and then pivot off those. You got to make sure you pull it straight down, because when you pull it straight down, it'll be easier to pop out of those things versus bending it. Okay, so I got those 8mm bolts out of there. So I'm going to reach up in here and press these tabs. I believe, where are they at? Let's see. Those tabs get pushed forward. There's a little indent for them. So once you push them forward, the front part is going to start to drop, and just grab it from the side and pop out one side at a time. And there you have it. So here's the metal clips, and they pop right up into those holes there. So I'm going to go ahead and shut that off and then unplug. There's two harnesses in here. One for your rear window and OnStar or whatever else you have tucked in there, and then the other for the light itself. So once that's the case, now you can see we have access to this chrome here if it's not too dark, but we'll take this inside, and then we could pop out those bulbs there, pop out the lenses, and then we could install our LEDs. Okay, now that we got the console, the light console, out of the truck and inside, the first thing we're going to do is pry off these lenses here. And this part's not for the faint of heart with the tool I'm using, but I've done this already and kind of have a system here. So basically what you want to do is use the smallest jeweler's flathead screwdriver you have, and you want to pry from this side. You don't want to pry from over here, because this is the fattest tab. You basically want to pop this stuff up and pull the LED or the lens itself off. So just carefully reach in here, and there is little indents here where you should be prying, and then we're going to pop that out. Okay, so I got those pulled out, and this is what I was talking about with the fattest tab there. So that's basically tucks in there, and then these two little small clips are on the top end. Take a flathead and just basically carefully pry around this angle to pull everything out. So then the next thing we're going to do is flip this guy over, and you could take another jeweler screwdriver, probably a little bit fatter of one, to push out the bulbs themselves. So there's one, there's two. So the other thing that happens when you push those out is the chrome housing comes out too. And really the only thing holding the chrome housing in there is the bulb. So it just can't slide past the bulb. So we're basically going to reverse this now and take our Lasfit bulbs, which are, I'm told, are non-polarized, so it doesn't really matter what direction they go into. I wouldn't be surprised if I got to flip them 180 degrees. But we're going to start by installing the chrome back into each one of these, and that simply just drops in like that. And this one drops in like that. And then we're going to take our LED bulbs here, and we're going to put them into the metal tabs down at the bottom there. Pretty simple. Those bulbs will fit, if I can show you here without scratching anything. They'll fit right up into these metal tabs here. So one side will touch that terminal, one side will touch this terminal, and we'll be good to go. Okay, before you go ahead and reinstall everything, the good thing to do before you even put the lenses back on is to test your lights. And again, like I said, these Lasfit ones, they're not polarized, so it doesn't really matter the orientation. However, I've come across bulbs in the past where they say they're not, but actually they are. Anyway, before you pop the lenses back on, test the light. So just basically plug it in, leave the console itself hanging, and then hit the bulb. So you can see they work, and boy are they bright, which is exciting because the halogens absolutely sucked, and I thought I was going blind, but in reality it was just shitty light. So anyway, I'm going to shut that off, and we're basically going to reverse everything. So we're going to pop the console into, let's see if we can get a view. We're going to pop the console into these two hard clip holes, and then basically swing it right back up. It's going to clip into those two clips on the sides, and then we're going to put our 8mm bolts back in. Pretty simple. So let's go ahead and fly through that. So I'll take this, line it up, pops in there, pops up, pop that down, and then we will put in our 8mm bolts. All right, so we got everything plugged in. It's a little dark right now, but the last thing I want to do is just a quick functional test. So I want to test that A. Yep, it comes on with the all light button. Turn that off. Driver side comes on, passenger side comes on. Wow, that's bright. All right, without the light, with the light, without, with. All right, so let's go ahead and knock out that halogen in the back. Now, one thing I will say is these halogen bulbs, particularly festoons, because you basically got to pinch the bulb to get it out, these halogens get hotter than hell. So I will advise you to give that back bulb some time to cool off before you swap it out for the LED. So we're gonna turn everything off, let it sit for a few minutes, and then I'll show you how easy it is to pop out the rear bulb. Okay, long story short, I misguided you guys. So originally, my original plan was to install the Lasfit LEDs up in the front map lights, and then use an existing festoon LED that I had laying around, so this Philips one, in the rear dome light. And I thought this would work because when I was originally testing out these bulbs, I tested them out individually. So I was using LEDs up front, they weren't working, and I figured that was just because they weren't CANBUS compliant. And then I tried the festoon on its own in the rear dome light, and it worked. However, when you try to plug in that non-CANBUS compliant festoon with lights that are CANBUS compliant up front, or with the existing halogen bulbs, you're going to run into issues, and basically what happens is that bulb won't even turn on. So what I did is I went ahead and picked up the other set of Lasfit LEDs. So basically I'll have Lasfit in the map and Lasfit in the dome. And the reason I picked these up is because they are CANBUS ready. So perfect, those will fit right in there. Unfortunately, you got to buy them in a 2-pack, so I'll take the other one and throw it in my wife's Explorer. I believe in the back she could use that one, and then we'll just use the one light here in the dome light. But again, just to review what happened, I was originally testing LEDs up front. They wouldn't work, and I figured it's because they weren't CANBUS compliant. So I ditched that idea, went back to the halogens. Then I came back here and tested out that LED that I had laying around, that Philips one that is not CANBUS ready, and it worked. But it only worked when I had halogens up front. So when I switched out the front ones with CANBUS ready LEDs, and then I went to go switch the rear with a non-CANBUS ready LED, the rear never worked. So the map light didn't work with that with the Philips festoon. So like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the Lasfit in there. And just a quick reminder how this goes. So you just take a flathead, and there's an indent right here, and we're just gonna pry that guy down a little bit. And that's all it takes. And before that guy gets too hot, we'll turn him off. Pull this guy out. Ow. Pull that guy out, and then we'll toss in the new LED, and we'll be right back. All right, so I finished up the LEDs in the rear, and like I said, I totally apologize for misguiding you guys at the beginning of the video. I thought I could use that LED festoon only because it worked in and of itself by itself without touching the front halogen bulbs. But once I switched the halogen bulbs in front to LEDs, then that rear non-CANBUS one went haywire. And it's because it's basically a big circuit, so it's constantly checking for either it's probably checking for resistance on the circuit. So halogen bulbs are going to be a little bit more resistive than LEDs. That current goes right through the LEDs, so they need to add extra resistors in there for it to be CANBUS compliant, so the computer thinks that you actually have a bulb in there instead of having a burnt out bulb. That said, I'm very happy with them. So the one thing I did notice is when you shut your door and you let the lights dim by themselves, in the past, on kind of the previous versions of LEDs that were on the market, like 4 or 5 years ago, they wouldn't dim as nicely as the factory lights do, but these LEDs from Lasfit definitely do that. So let me go ahead and shut off the light here. All right, so it's off, and we're gonna open up the rear. And that is bright. It's about 3 times the light output inside the car. And like I said, I had the halogens in there before, and I thought I was going blind because I couldn't see very well in there, but it just turns out that they're just shitty lights. So that's how you install LEDs in the front and rear, and hopefully you learned from my little lesson learned there that just go right with the CANBUS lights right away. Don't mess around with trying to use what you have laying around unless it's already CANBUS ready lights. I'll leave the part numbers and links to the lights at Lasfit down in the description. But hopefully that helped, and if you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it.